I get that a lot with a lot of stuff. And it's funny, I literally have a poster, Rick, right on the backside of this screen, and it says the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I'm like, it's
100%.
funny how the
Yes.
people who like go the hardest end up being just so lucky. And I'm like, no, man, I also knocked 100 doors and they told me to go pound sand. And then finally something hit, right?
Yes. Welcome to another episode of the Refined Real Estate Podcast. It's Manny here, and we have and Janelle. Obviously, Janelle's here. Ian's not here today, but we have a special guest with us, our good friend Neal Andreino, an awesome investor and also a famous podcaster here in Halifax. Neal, thank you for being with us today.
No, of course, man. I don't know about famous, but yeah. No,
I would.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that. We definitely got a little following there for a minute, but yeah, no, I'm excited to be here, Manny and Janelle. I've obviously talked to you guys a bunch in the past, and it's a small city, so everyone crosses paths a lot.
I was actually gonna say too, like you and I feel like we've been like crossing paths, like one like 1 degree removed or whatever from like engineering to like I feel like we've exchanged a few Instagram messages, but we've never properly like sat down and chatted. And then I think you would have been the year ahead or behind me in engineering, I think.
Shit, I don't know. I was with Kirsty in that group, but I know. I've heard the name many times. And it was the same with Manny. Manny, we had messaged a bunch of times, and like I would say I'm probably the one that's guilty for this. I fall way behind on messages and phone calls and DMs and all this kind of stuff. And it's not because I'm popular, but my main business
Way too popular.
My main business is being a real estate agent, and like that is so intensely busy on your phone. It's ridiculous. Like just the amount of text messages and calls coming in, and so it's like, and it's a game of like any business owner or investor does it. It's a priority thing. You're like, okay, like I need a new fridge. The apartment's on fire. So you're like, all right, cool. The fridge is getting bumped because this guy's apartment's on fire right now. And so that's kind of my life. It's just like putting out fires with deals constantly and trying to keep everything afloat. So I apologize now for not responding and not making a ton of time, but we got to sit down here recently. Manny and Ian and I did, and I'm sure Janelle will end up sitting down here in the next couple months and chatting things out.
No, absolutely. But I guess, Neal, if our listeners don't know you, which I think they should, but if they don't for some reason, can you just tell them about yourself, from the beginning to where you are now?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, a little backstory. Where are you from? Where you grew up?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I mean, I guess you guys alluded to it a little bit, but like I'm a host of Master Keys podcast, which has been on pause for almost, I guess, 2 months now, just with the way work has been. But actually outside of that, I grew up actually in Ontario, but I moved to Halifax in the high school time frame. I went to Dalhousie, did engineering, and while I was in engineering, I kind of got into the business world just with small stuff. I was doing landscaping, and I was selling car parts, car products, and then natural progression, I started selling cars, just flipping cars. I was importing them from overseas, pretty much anything to make a buck. And that kind of natural progression of flipping and sales led me into, I was like, what's kind of the next thing I can do? So I ended up partnering with a couple buddies to buy a duplex in Halifax. Didn't do so hot on that, made every mistake possible. Wasn't a legal unit. We got shitty tenants that I didn't do a great job pre-qualifying. They destroyed the place. They stole the appliances, didn't pay rent. Pretty much everything you could think of. And I was stupid enough to be like, this is a sick business. I'm going to keep going with it. And so I ended up branching off on my own, and I bought some foreclosures, which I flipped. And then kind of my big break, I'll say, was I bought a property in the south end of Halifax, which is, for those who aren't from Halifax, like our downtown neighborhood that's around the university. So it's effectively our highest average price point. And I ended up getting a house in there for $350, which pretty much anyone now at this point, pretty much anywhere in Canada would be like, that's insane. And so I was in the best neighborhood in our city for $350,000, and I ended up converting that house to a triplex. Got a huge lift. I didn't even know what I was doing. Like I didn't know the Burr model. I was just taking advice from other people to be like, do this, and you'll get enough rent that you can cover your expenses. And then we got an appraisal done by the bank, and I was like, holy shit! Like I bought this for X. I paid $350, and yeah, I put in X, and I was like, wow, I am way over that number. And then I got my refi, and I got that check in hand, and I was like, damn, son, like infinite money glitch, like real estate is the way to the future, like here we go. And so then I ended up taking that. I lost it all. I bought a business, bought some cryptocurrency, made some really stupid decisions.
But before you get ahead on that, like what you did with the money or what you did not do with the money. So just to jump back, like where are you at in your life at this point that you're getting into real estate? Like, are you still in school? Like, did you graduate?
Yeah, so I'm still in school at this point. So
Are you working? Are you not
I haven't
working?
left university, and so people are like, how the hell did he buy real estate in university? So like I said, I had a bunch of businesses starting from high school time frame. So I'd been saving cash like a lunatic and always doing stuff. And I always had a part-time job running, but I also worked cash jobs and I was doing extra stuff. Like I would look on Kijiji for job postings. Like people are like, I need this done for $500. I'm like, yo, I'll be there. So I was doing shit like that. I never stopped selling car products. So even during class, like I'd rip out, run to my car, meet the person at my car and be like, boom, here's something for like $50 or whatever it was. Like I just kept doing that stuff. And then the way I was actually able to qualify for a mortgage was I worked co-op jobs with engineering. And so I was on an 8-month term, had a pretty strong pay, and they were able to utilize that to qualify me for a mortgage to buy. And so that's how I was able to branch out on my own. But I originally had partners because they wouldn't qualify my income. Even though I had all these little things, a bunch of little random side hustles don't actually equate to anything in the bank size, but it gave me down payment money. So my original buy, that duplex that I screwed up, I had partnered with a couple guys who had real jobs and also had their portion of the down payment. And then I brought my portion and together we bought it. It was only $275,000. It was on the peninsula of Halifax, which again is a crazy thought to think of today. But that was how I was able to do it. And then my property, my third property, my mom actually co-signed on it. Like that was the only way that I was going to get in because again, I didn't have very much income. But that was kind of the path. And the way to making the down payments was just like sheer hustle. Like just I was working 40 hours at a part-time job and then I was paving and sealing driveways in the evenings. And then I was selling stuff on the side. And then I had a little landscaping thing going. Like it was just, there's no kind of, everyone asks that and I'm like, there's no real substitution. I mean, if you're really smart and there's like tricks and stuff, like I was also trying to trade stocks at the same time. I was hedging crypto. Like it was just literally anything that I'm like, I can make pretty much above $50 to $100. I was like, I will get engaged in this within my capacity to do everything to get these down payments together.
You're hustling.
Yes, I was hustling my ass off. And then, as you know, Janelle, engineering is a grind. So it was just like absolute pandemonium for most of those years. But at this point, I'm still in university. I had just done that triplex conversion. I had done it with a mentor, but I ended up buying him out. So a big part of that refi that I got, I ended up buying him out. And then I went out and bought a franchise with a friend of mine, which we still own today. But at the time, it didn't really make any money. I didn't understand like the cost of opening a business and what it took. And then I also, like I said, I bought some crypto and just made some other foolish investments that didn't quite pay out. So at this point now, I'm in kind of this flux. I had graduated, I became a real estate agent. Same thing, like the timing was good, but as a brand new real estate agent, like it takes probably 6 months to your first paycheck. I was fortunate that I got it done a little bit sooner, but it still wasn't like I was making bank. Like in my first year, I think I made about 50 grand. And so in that time frame though, I owned this franchise, which was a restoration business. And what we do is we restore properties that have been flooded, that have caught on fire, whatever it may be. And I always kind of monitored that world, which was like what buildings were catching on fire, what buildings were flooding, what was going on. And so I heard of an 11-unit building in Spryfield that had caught on fire. And so alarm bells went off. I was like, oh, like this could be a restoration job, or maybe I could buy the place. Like a couple different options came to mind. And so I searched the owner down on Property Online and went to their house, and she was amazing. I don't know if she'll ever hear this, but she was a super, super nice lady. We sat and chatted. I kind of talked to her about how the restoration industry works and how she can make sure that she gets everything that property's worth from the insurance, because insurance is quick to be like, okay, here's $50K, leave us alone. And so I kind of worked with her on that front, and then she was like, well, do you want to buy the building? And I said, yeah, I would like to. And so she kind of poked me a few times, and I was nervous, but I made an offer. I mean, it's public record. I offered her $325,000 for an 11-unit building. So, which was nothing. She accepted it.
For a building that did have
a fire in it.
After you restored it?
We had restored it. So she ultimately cashed out with insurance. So that was kind of part of the reason it worked, is because insurance paid her the difference of the restoration value, which I can only imagine was a large chunk. So I think my money was kind of honestly just bonus money for her. And at the end of the day, like the building had a fire in it, so like 2 units were torched. No restoration work had been accomplished at this point in time. They had just demolished it. So it was just, the interior was just gutted. But it was also empty of tenants, which meant like literally day one. Yeah. And then sure enough, I couldn't get together financing still because I was only just becoming a realtor, didn't have stable income. So this is when I had to look at private lending. And even them, they weren't willing to take on a ton of it because I was inexperienced. It's my first build. The building had been burnt. So ultimately, the seller, again, she's a saint, lent me the money basically to buy her own building. She's like, I'll just give you the money to buy it from me. So she VTB'd
Wow.
She gave me an 85% VTB. So
50% down.
Wow.
yes, which, yeah. So it was like 40, 50 grand to get into an 11 unit building. The appraisal numbers were out of sight, like so good. And so getting the rental money from privates was very easy. And so they ran it through, and I rebuilt it with privates. And that was like my first foray into this. Like I was driving there every day at like 6:30 in the morning, getting all the boys set up. I didn't know what I didn't know. Like it was just, I was going to Home Depot at the end of the day after work, and my career as a realtor was starting to pick up, but I funneled literally every single dime that I had into that building, into the interest payments on the mortgage. And I lived in a duplex that I bought for $240K, and I had a tenant upstairs paying rent. So I was basically living for like nothing. And I was just, my car was paid off. I had no expenses. I didn't go on trips. I didn't have anything fancy. I just funneled every dime I had into the building. And of course, like the numbers came out really well. I did a CMHC refi at the end of it. And that just like set the tone from there. I had a very large cash out, and I used that.
Yeah, it's a smoking
Yeah,
home
it
run.
was a huge home run. I think the building today is probably worth $2.5 million or something. Like it worked out really well. Yeah,
Easily.
and I have a nice mortgage from CMHC at 2% that's fixed. So great cash flow, great cash in hand. Yeah, it said it. And so then I took that money, and on that same street there was 8 6-unit buildings. So I just called every single owner. Today now I own 6 of them. I could have had 7 of them. I could have actually had all 8 of them, but I got a little bit cocky and upright about it, about some of the prices, which I regret now because those prices are still so cheap. But I think I averaged purchasing on that street at around 70 a door for all, maybe even a little less, maybe 60 a door average for all 47 units. And again, of course, the numbers are coming really good. So those projects have been really good for me. And at that same time, I had partnered with a few people to buy some other bigger buildings in the city. My realtor career grew, and then most recently, and in finalizing these projects now, I have kind of switched what side of the table I'm sitting on, and I've now joined and founded a private lending institution here in Atlantic Canada, Keystone Capital, with a few partners who had actually originally lent me a good portion of all the money that I used to get started. So it went.
Now tables have turned. You're lending your
exactly.
money.
Now tables have turned. I'm lending my money. I'm lending other people's money, and I'm originating, which is cool. And I think the desire came from the fact that I looked at what I spent with them. I was like, damn, I paid these guys whatever hundreds of thousands of dollars. They were at 65% loan to value, and there's 5 people, and they have 400 projects on the go. I have like 3 projects on the go. I got like 60 guys running right now. I'm stressed as hell. I'm paying all this money out. I was like, I want to be on their end of the table. And so fortunately, I was able to make that happen by going and chatting with those guys, and they were interested in doing it. And sure enough, we launched. And so we just finished our first quarter, September 1st. That's been going really well. But that's where I'm at. It's who I am now.
Congrats.
It was a long-winded answer.
That is quite the story. No, that's what we needed.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot's happened. What was the time frame from the beginning of that to the end?
Oh man, gonna make me feel old here now. I guess like if you look at really shit started popping final year university, so probably 6 years now.
6 years. 6 years of growth.
Yeah, I'd say it was 6 years. Like I bought that place I converted into a triplex. Actually, I think it was 2018. So that's 5 years. So really, like the bulk of the real growth probably was in 4 years. But again, it's I say that, but really, like I said, it's since like high school I've been kind of on the grind, and so you can't skip those first 3 to 5 years to put your cash together.
A lot of foundation.
Yeah,
years.
and like I mean, you could probably do it a lot faster than I did it though, because I was making like $9.50 an hour when I was working part time, and like most people are probably making a fair bit more than that, especially if they've now graduated university. So you can probably expedite the first 4 or 5 years of my BS to probably like a year or two.
Thing is, someone might listen to this podcast and think to themselves, Neal got so lucky on that 11 unit. But I think that is the silliest thing. Because like you said, you put yourself in that position to take advantage of an amazing opportunity.
I get that a lot with a lot of stuff, and it's funny. I literally have a poster, Rick, right on the back side of this screen, and it says the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I'm like, it's
100%.
funny how the people who like go the hardest end up being just so lucky. And I'm like, no man, I also knocked 100 doors, and they told me to go pound sand. And then finally something hit, right?
Yes.
I don't think luck is a thing, to be honest with you. I think there maybe is like a little bit of it, but for the most part, I'm like, there's no really such thing. Like,
that's even the lottery.
You're doing everything. Yeah, like you're doing everything to position yourself to get in front of those sellers, having the restoration company, like being in that industry. Like that's not by fluke. Like you're consciously choosing that. And no, like kudos to you. Like, I mean, that's a lot of hard work. And I was going to say 6 years and no gray hairs.
I just have no hairs. That's what problem.
Yeah. Skip it. But no, it's hard work. Like, I think, yeah, anyone who's trying to get into real estate or is in real estate, like, they can appreciate that. And like you said, Manny, like, you can look at that and be like, oh, like, that's so lucky. It's like, no, man, like, you didn't see the blood, sweat, and tears. Like you said, the 6 a.m. mornings, the going to Home Depot, like, at 8, 9 o'clock at evening. And they're probably like, man, this guy's here every day. Like, what's this guy doing? Like, does he have a life? And it's like, no, like, you're grinding. So, like, yeah, that's awesome. Like,
thank you. Yeah,
you, all the success you've had, like, very well deserved.
Thank you. I think, yeah, I second everything you're saying there. It's work your ass off, and you'll get lucky eventually. You'll hit breaks. You'll also get very unlucky, and you can't, like, get... I also mentioned in there how, like, that first fat check that I got, I lost all that shit. There were stupid decisions, but at the time it seemed logical. At that point, like, when I bought crypto, it had been going up for 2 years straight. Every person I knew that owned crypto was like, dude, I just made 50 grand this morning. And I'm like, okay, what the hell's going on? And then I bought in and I lost my shirt. But there's a million things I didn't mention in there that I tried along the way, which I lost my shirt on, which was investing in businesses, investing in certain people that I shouldn't have. And so I kind of, I guess, highlighted good things. But go ahead, sorry.
What do you think was, like, it's really easy to talk about, like, all the good moments and stuff like that. What do you think was your hardest moment through all that growth? Like, that really, really tough moment that you had to, like, talk to yourself to, like, get out of, and, like, how did you work past that? Because I know for myself, like, I could talk about a lot of moments where I could just be like, I was just like, man, fuck this shit. Like, this sucks.
I feel like there's been a bunch. Like, there's been so many times where I've, like, screwed up and I'm like, I gotta do this again. And, like, I'll probably say there's 2 moments. I think when I lost all the money that I had gotten on that refi, I was like, man, I screwed this up, and it was hard to keep my head up because everything I touched lost money. I went from having like 30 grand to having $200,000, and I'm like, I can't screw this up. And then I managed to screw it up, and I was like, I didn't even buy anything for myself. That's the crazy part. Like, I didn't buy a new car. I didn't buy any fancy shit. I didn't buy myself a house. Like, I literally spent it all on investments, and not one of them hit. So that was a really hard moment. I think the actual hardest probably was when I first got started, probably in the midst of that 11 unit, and didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. Like, I was forwarding payments off credit cards and shit. Like, it was, and I was working so much. Like, I was literally just getting up first thing in the morning, grinding through the whole day, going to Home Depot until 9, and then I would sit on my computer until I, like, passed out at midnight, just, like, doing paperwork for work. I didn't have any staff, so it was just, everything was on me. And every month end was just the most stressful thing in the world because I literally just didn't have any friggin' money. But again, it kind of, like, helped me then. Like, I launched from there, and I'm learning now though that comes in cycles. Like, it's gonna happen again, and it might not be because there's no money, but there's just so many roadblocks in front of you, and it's not. It's how you handle those. That's what's going to make the difference in how you grow your business and what you're going to be in your life. Like, if you want to have successes in any direction, it's how you handle that roadblock more so than how you handle the success, which is, again, it's cliche, but I all these sayings kind of actually do hit.
They do. And like you said, even though those investments that you made that were kind of failures, that's just you just learn from them, you know. Like, obviously, Kobe, I don't know if do you like basketball? Are you a basketball guy at all?
I like a little bit, but I'm not a crazy sports guy.
Like, Kobe Bryant's my favorite player.
Yeah.
This guy has missed the most shots in NBA history, and I think it's by a lot.
Yeah.
but he's made some massive ones. So it's like you took your shots on those investments. You missed. You lost some cash. You learned your lesson. You didn't give up. You found your niche, and you just freaking went and dominated. So that's like a learning lesson right there. People think entrepreneurs, we're just so rich and it's so easy to get here, but they don't see the struggle. Like those nights, like losing. You know, that red on like $100,000 loss or plus, man, that hurts.
It's brutal. It's so brutal. And then also the financial stress when you're at the end of just being like, I have no cash right now. Like, this is just literal hell. So yeah, no, it's definitely a weird glorified thing. And I without upsetting anyone, but there's a stability that a job offers, and there's a reason that the pays are where they're at versus why some, like, if you go out on your own, sky's the limit for kind of a reason. And what there's that saying? It's like an entrepreneur or a business owner is the only person that would trade a 40-hour work week for an 80-hour work week. Like, it's like, yeah, you get to make your own schedule. It's just every hour of the day.
I say like the sky's the limit if you're your own business or entrepreneur, but also like the basement's the limit too.
Yeah,
it is.
That basement goes deep.
Goes very deep. So yeah, I don't know. I don't like to try and like hype myself up as some like motivational speaker, but I do think I can just share that grind your ass off. Like that's the only option. There's no. I mean, again, there's luck involved, but I would say be mentally. If you want to be successful and you're like, I'll take no. Like I really have no other choice. Then the only thing you can be sure of is that you're gonna have to grind.
Yeah. No, that's true.
So
I think for people who are trying to get into real estate or buying like their first, second, third property, just trying to get into the industry in general right now, like what if you were speaking to yourself today, like what would you say?
Don't buy this shit.
Like what would you recommend? Get out now while you still can.
I mean, so anyone who's listened to me on Master Keys knows I'm like Mr. Fear-mongering psychopath. But no, I think like some of the things I had talked about it on there was just like buy in marketplaces. When you're starting, I always suggest buying in marketplaces where like the financials make sense. And Canadian real estate is a funny game because I'm sure a lot of people, if they're just trying to get into it, or even if they own now, they're like, how are people buying this? This 5-unit doesn't cash flow in any possible scenario. And I'm like, I also agree with you. I have no idea how people are buying this, but this is how our market works. It's based on appreciation and demand more so than actual intrinsic value, which is cool and can work great if you have a bunch of equity and you can find ways to float it or you have a cash flow source. But if you don't, in times like this right now, you really meet the reaper because you don't have the cash flow to make your payments. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is go to marketplaces where cash flow makes sense. So that might be outside of the city. And when I started, that was Atlantic Canada. Cash flow made no sense in Ontario, but it made tons of sense in Atlantic Canada because you could buy properties and you could easily buy them at 8-9 caps, as well as interest rates were like 3%, well, 4% I think when I started. So it made sense. Now in cash flows or cap rates are 5.
Now it's the reverse.
Now it's literally the reverse.
Cap rates are 3, interest rates 9.
Exactly, like almost exactly the reverse. And so it's like these are not going to cash flow. So go to, like I've said before, go to like, for us, go to your Truros and your Kentvilles and your Sydneys, and you'll still be able to buy shit at 10 caps, and they'll actually cash flow. And then you can establish a base. It's not going to be super sexy. You might not necessarily get these huge lifts, but you're going to establish a foundation, which you can then utilize to move into these markets. It can also allude to Manny. Like Manny went to a city where cash flow was insane. So like you're doing that exact same principle. I mean, you're buying big properties, but your caps are high, and so it makes sense in today's interest rate market. And so you can feel confident making that purchase. And yes, like we talked about, your lift's great because you bought such a big building, but as a whole, as a percentage, the lift's not like you're going up like 4x on the value, but it doesn't really matter because you're building a cash flow base, which you can then use to go to like a more downtown location and then buy something if you want to have that big giant lift or you want that token property. But if you're looking at it as a business, then you need to really focus on cash flow. If it's purely an investment, you're just putting cash out and it's not a big deal for you, then I mean, try and find good, well-maintained properties with strong rents in areas that you think can appreciate. I think there's opportunities to come though. Like I think like people are just running out of cash, and you're already seeing it. Like a lot of properties that are bought in the last 2-3 years are back on market right now, and I think we're just at the front of it. And
you think it's because people can no longer afford to keep them afloat because interest rates have gone up, or why do you think that's the case?
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
Like on like a super basic level, it's inflation was on everything, so every bill in your life is more expensive, as well as your house went crazy, and our houses are expensive, like plain and simple. And so if you're on a variable payment right now, you're getting slaughtered. If you are on these fixed variable BS that we have going on in Canada, yeah, you're not getting slaughtered yet, but you can see the reaper coming. It's like in 2 years and 1 month, there's a good chance your payment's going to double. You know what I mean? Or like maybe not 2 years, but let's say 1 year, your payment's going to double. And so there's a lot of renewals coming up, and so people need to get the hell out of these, combined with when expenses are high and interest rates are high and people are under stress, like divorce rates are up, business failures are up. So it's just everything is going to be getting stressed a lot right now. And so because of that, there's going to be opportunities. Do I think there's going to be a collapse in Atlantic Canada? I don't think so. Because again, this is a weird situation where we have such high demand, but I think there are deals to be had.
But I think there's gonna be tough times, and I think it's happening already. Like I was speaking to someone about Airbnb lately, and we were both saying we're like, I feel like guests were more just generally demanding, like just generally unhappier, and I was like, I think it's because it's financial troubles. I think everyone's just like everyone gets pissy at this time.
Before your house was going up,
like no one's happy.
$100,000 every year, so you're like, yo, whatever. I'm like the richest man alive, and so I'll go to this Airbnb for $250 a night. I don't give a shit, and like I'm just happy to have a place.
Yeah, whatever.
Now there's options, and I also don't have a bunch of cash in my account, and so I have an expectation of what this is going to provide me. Like definitely, 100%. It's same with tenants and stuff. Like their expectations are going to change here, and they already are in Toronto, where the people are just like, I ain't paying rent. This place sucks. I'm not paying.
Yeah.
So it's that's my only concern is if that movement really catches on as an investor, like this whole like don't pay rent movement thing. That's like some bullshit, and I just don't know what you do. Like in my head, I'm like, okay, if they're gonna play greasy, then I'm gonna play greasy. I'm like, let's just throw down in my house. Let's do this thing. Like, and I don't mean like physically necessarily throw down, but like I'm just not gonna pay the heating bill. You don't pay rent, I don't pay heating. It works out. Everyone's happy. Like, but you can't do that.
Yeah, except tenancy in Nova Scotia. It's nuts here. It's crazy.
So I've seen that stuff in Toronto. Neal, have you? I haven't followed much with it though. Has anything come of it?
Not really. It's just people just aren't paying rent, and the companies are setting up their eviction notices, and this is over like I think it was like 8% or 9% a year for 2 or 3 years, which I get is a lot, and I get these are people's homes, and I appreciate that housing should be a human right, but it's not the responsibility of landlords. And like I always see the comment on any kind of post like this where it's like, well, if you can't afford the investment, you shouldn't have it. And I'm like, no, like we can afford the investment. Like we afforded it, and then the investment came with like set numbers. Like so now that they're not making like if you buy something and it just makes $0, then nothing would like it's like no company. It's like going into McDonald's and just taking all the food for free and being like, well, if you can't run the McDonald's without giving me the food for free, then you probably shouldn't run the McDonald's. And I'm like, what? No, man, like that's like there's a reason they have to charge for the food that they give you. So anyways, that comment to me always blows my mind.
That is so I'm gonna start responding to comments.
Oh man,
that is hilarious. I've never thought about it that way because I just thought it was so stupid. I didn't give much thought to it, but when you lay it out like that, that's hilarious.
It's a product that we're offering. Again, I understand it's a human right, but it's I don't know. I don't think it should be the human right of the landlords. It's like if you can't afford food, we give you food stamps. But if you can't afford rent, then the government needs to give you rent stamps. You know, like there's so many things like that I don't know, but I'm sure I'll get roasted for this. I do usually.
I hope you don't, because I fully agree.
Neither.
I'm sure Janelle agrees, and most of our listeners will agree. But if this somehow makes its way over to that side of
Reddit,
the internet, that side of Reddit.
I was just gonna say, like, it's only a matter of time until Reddit. The Reddit.
Once they find this, I'm sure they're gonna clip it up.
Shadow creepers.
They will 100%
I'm sure.
clip it up, and then we'll be in the news.
I don't know.
So speaking of, but I do have a question for you. Like how we've been in the news for a couple of different things now, but as a like general response to it, like how do you find that's affected you, like in your business, like in investing here?
It's definitely like reduced my desire to invest, which I'm sure there's many people who are listening that are like sick, which I'm like cool. Like I don't know. I think it was kind of.
Yeah, but it like someone else is just gonna.
Well, that's the thing. Like there's gonna be another investor that's gonna buy it. No one's gonna buy it and be like, I bought this building out of the goodness of my heart to just give people free apartments.
They're gonna get someone from out of country who doesn't give a shit, and they're just like whatever. It's
gonna be all the same shit. Do I love the business model? No, I don't. And I've kind of come to realize that as I've kind of gone through it a few times, and it is hard to do it. But I think basically the opportunity is there simply due to government negligence of the problem that's in front of us. And unfortunately, I've tried to explain this to a few people, but just building new housing is like what I think the mission is for almost all of us as investors and who are focusing on a business in real estate. But it's not something you can just do right away. Like it's so cost prohibitive that you need to establish a base in advance to being able to actually go out and do anything meaningful on the construction side. And it's become very multi-generational. And so in trying to expedite that, I went out and bought buildings and I vacated them. I also will say, like, I at the time I was following all the rules of the law. Like that was my kind of mindset of like, here are the rules outlined by the government to follow. So I followed them, and I understand that they're not super great, but they were allowed, and so I did that. And so the news hasn't necessarily personally affected me. It's kind of disappointing because I feel like there's some stuff that gets taken out of context and they try and damage your character, and I don't know, it doesn't really bother me, but I do find it, I'm quite blown away when I read like the comments and stuff online, like what people are comfortable to say. Like they're just like the shit that they'll say is pretty wild to me. But I mean, I guess each to their own, and yeah, I like
there's
I said,
just
for me,
there's so much hate. I agree.
It's like
there's so much hate for landlords, and I don't know if it's been like this for like many years, but like I've seen it noticeably get worse over the past like 2-3 years, and like you said, on especially the Instagram comment section, Facebook, wherever, Reddit, people just feel liberated to just talk as negatively about property owners as possible.
Yeah,
I know. Like I don't talk about being a property owner, and if I do like disclose it, I'm like, oh yeah, I like own real estate. Like for example, like I had acupuncture today. Like I find anyone who's in real estate out there, it's really good for stress relief. Yeah, I actually do find it like quite helpful. And the first time I tried it, I was like, this is like voodoo magic. But I was like, oh wow, I feel better. But I went to the acupuncturist. It's like older lady. She's probably like 60. And she's been doing this for I was like, how long have you been doing this for? And she's like, 40 years. And I was like, I like you. And then she's like, what do you do for work, et cetera. And I'm like, yeah, like I do like real estate and this and that. And I was like, yeah, it's tough to say that here. And she's like, oh, like why? And I was like, it's just generally not like respected here. And she's like, oh, like I didn't really know that. And I was like, oh, okay, sorry, I didn't say anything. Like I wish I kept the like good reputation. But
that makes me wonder though, Janelle, like how prevalent is it actually that people don't like investors, or is it just the loudest people on the internet that we see, that small minority?
I think it's the loudest. I think it's the loudest people. I think so. I think we know what side of the government a lot of those people are on. But I think they're just really loud. They're the keyboard warriors. They're the people out there who don't give a shit what they say. They don't care what they're saying to you on the internet and defaming your character and like shitting on your family or doing like whatever. I've seen the comments, like not you specifically, but like in general, like they're horrible. Like it's like, where's the bullying? Like this is bullying. But I think it's a smaller group of people, some smaller than we think in our heads. I should clarify. That are just really loud.
100%. I don't know. Like I said, I get both ends of it. I think there is a smaller group of people. There's a lot of people I think that are supportive, but they're not going to speak out because they'll get like shamed for it. But I will say it's not a super glamorous business, and I'm not really looking for any glamour. I'm kind of just don't want to have a business model where like my clients hate me, and so like how it's going to impact me is I just don't really want to do business around here anymore. That was already the case, so I feel like it just kind of helped expedite that a little bit. Yeah, no, it's definitely a funny game, and I think like one thing just for consideration, like to everyone who's out there, if you're listening and you're like, these guys seem like they might be a little offside. It's like if you look at the price of like a new build, 40% of it's directly attributed to government taxation. Just take that rent when you see it at $2,000. Just know it could have been $1,200 if the government were to give you some rebates. So before you hate the landlord, just understand that a good portion of that, like we don't go hate Petro-Canada that gas is $2. We're all like, well, fuck Trudeau, he put in carbon tax and all this bullshit. So we all can attribute and understand that. Similar to how gas is a utility, rent and housing almost has become a utility as well, and it's getting taxed to the absolute nines. And so I don't know why there's such a huge disconnect there, but I guess there is an aspect of like, I think there may be more of a disconnect there because there's more smaller people invested that do very well in real estate or do pretty well and above average. Whereas like in oil and gas, they're like the guys who own Irving. There's like the 5 people in the Irving family that are multi-bazillionaires. And so they don't feel as much hatred because they never see them. But real estate, for a company the size, to be the equivalent of a company the size of Irving, you have probably 5,000 property owners who are all doing, let's say, slightly above average. And so then you have this, everyone has this distaste. Everyone knows someone that did a little bit better from doing it. And so maybe there's more ability to get upset about it. But I say that people hate oil and gas with a passion, I guess more for the emission aspect than the money making, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you kind of touched on it there though. What's next? If Halifax and Nova Scotia is no longer it, and you know, I know you told us like you're finishing up your projects here, but once they're done, what's the big leap? What's in Neal's for next year, 2 years, 5 years?
First step's hair plugs. I gotta get back all the hair that I lost dealing with these damn projects, man. This shit was hell.
Turkey?
Yeah,
you going to Turkey?
100% going to Turkey in the spring. Gonna get it back. I'm excited.
You're serious?
I'm dead serious. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, I can't wait to see
yeah.
it.
I'll tell you how it goes, but like,
hot girl summer, hot girl summer,
yeah,
2024.
It's gonna be sweet. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm actually not looking forward to the operation. I talked to my buddy who did it, and he said it was hell. But he said it was the best thing he ever did, but it was hell. And I was like, all right, cool.
You ever see black guys get it done?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and it's effective.
Yeah, man.
Really?
Yes, 100%. Yes. You want it?
Okay, we'll talk.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about this. Yes.
I'm gonna call this company because I'm like bringing like 30 guys, like everyone, all the boys. I'm like,
I was just gonna say, get a bulk discount.
We want the whole entire hotel. We want a discount on the hairlines, and we want a couple extra follicles put in there. But yeah, no. Outside of that, actual real shit, I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna focus a lot of my energy on Keystone. Like it's growing really fast, and I like that business a lot. And so it's kind of exciting. Like we're getting to be involved in a lot of projects, and I kind of enjoy being at this level. I'm a little more removed. We get to help see them through their project and kind of grow their business. So there's that aspect. And then I've alluded to it a bunch of times on Master Keys, and you and I met about it, Manny. But I definitely want to invest, I think, into the States or another country. Kind of sidelining right now to understand what's going on in the marketplaces. I'm spending a lot of time trying to study the economics and really understand what we're going into and what the next run-up's going to be, because there's also an aspect of like, if we do have some pullback or slowdown, the pace of growth on the return might diminish. So all to say, like I might go into commercial real estate in the States, I might go into industrial. Like I'm kind of testing all the different avenues, but I would say I definitely want to be in a more creative role. I think I'm going to put real estate more as an investment aspect in my life, and I want to kind of have an active business model as my other front portion where I kind of create and produce and do something like that.
Do you take on investor capital with Keystone?
Yeah, man.
Like, is that where the bulk of it?
Yeah, 100%. That is the bulk of it. We have institutional partners, syndicate partners, so other banks invest in us. But then we also have partners that invest in us. And right now, there's a lot of people who have sold property and kind of are sidelining the market to see what happens, and they're investing with us. And so I can say, like, we pay 9% on your money. If it's a fairly large chunk of cash, we can pay higher than that. But we feel like it's a really good return. So if you get let's say $100,000, $200,000, we'll pay you 9% annual return. It's paid in a monthly dividend, and you don't do anything. Like
And I'm like, that sounds fantastic.
Well, I have a lot of property owners that are like, man, I was only making 3.5%, 4% on this place. I'm not super confident that it's going to appreciate over the next few years. So I'm going to sell this. I'll give you the cash, and you guys can pay me 9% on this. It's not a bad little setup, and your principal's guaranteed.
And that's awesome.
And then after a year, 90 days notice, you can request your money back. And so that's a lot of the guys that we have investing right now, guys and girls that are investing right now, is property owners that want to buy again down the road. They're just temporarily parking their cash here instead of like a 5% GIC.
Man, that sounds great.
That sounds great. And the fact that you guys are doing the vetting, you guys are looking at the projects, like you're servicing that loan, like everything, like to have that. I'm like, that sounds some of the easiest money in the world. It
really is. Like my group of guys have been doing this for their careers. They came from a background with the largest Atlantic private lender that there was. We do all of the underwriting. We're checking credit scores. We're keeping low loan to value. We're predominantly in first place mortgages. And your money's never tied to a single mortgage. So if we have a default on file, you won't feel any impact. It has nothing to do with you. You're still going to get your payouts, and when you want your money back, you still get your money back. That's something that we take on and manage. And again, we understand that we're saying that we don't have a ton of confidence that the market has a ton of growth to go, and so we're lending a very low risk projects because we just don't want to be in a position where we get caught holding the bag. And we're not trying to be in that position. Like, we want to get in projects that we feel confident in the investor, and we want to help see them through their project. So yeah.
Are you guys looking for more investors?
Always looking for more investors. There's always room for more capital.
Do you have what's your minimum
investment? So we have a
100K
minimum investment, and we ask for a 1-year commitment on that capital. We've had a few, I'll just say, like, as on this end, like, we've had a few people that are maybe good for 50, and then their friends good for 50. So I'm willing to kind of work with people to help them kind of meet the structure. Once we break $500,000 to $1 million, I can start kind of talking with you about potential other rates of return, maybe a little bit higher, but we see a fairly large commitment to be able to provide something higher than 9%.
Okay, perfect. Well, now people out there who might be interested, we'll have your information in the show notes. So definitely get in touch with Neal if you're interested and meet all those requirements and you want some easy money.
I appreciate that. I love a little shameless plug, and I think it's a pretty good one. I'll make you some money. You help me make some money, I'll make you some money.
Yeah. No,
here's a question for you before I'm sure we might be kind of hitting our time here soon. But Neal, what's something that people don't know about you that you wish they knew?
God, that I wish they knew. I feel like I kind of rinsed myself pretty hard with Master Keys, so people found out more than they needed to know. I don't know.
Or you can even say like a misconception or something like that too.
Misconception is probably that I'm like a money grubbing asshole. And I think there was a bit of a funny thing because I love cars, I love fancy shit. Like I got into that world and I bought a lot of it and I went and tried a lot of that stuff. And that really didn't come from my real estate investments. Like a lot of people are like, oh, he's taking the money off people's backs to go do this. And I'm like, no, like I actually had a very successful real estate sales career. I was top producing in Nova Scotia for every year that I've been in. And so I utilized that capital to go have a very fun life. I lived pretty recklessly with it and enjoyed it. But it wasn't because I was making tons of money. Like my real estate companies, I've never made money actually. So I've literally been funneling money into them constantly. And anytime there's been money, it's been reinvested into projects. And like even now we're getting capital back on refinances and I'm looking at doing upgrades after that. Like I'm not, we're going to try and add heat pumps or add more insulation and change the things that we need to make people comfortable and enjoy their spaces. But I think there was a weird blend where it's like I was doing really well over here and I used that to play a funny life. And I think then anyone who creeped me or followed my stuff assumed that it was like because I was just making all this money as a real estate investor. But I'd say that would probably be the one misconception that I definitely see circulating online sometimes. But otherwise, I don't have too many exciting secrets.
Man, I find that so funny, man. Who cares if you're living a good life? Like I see your car, and I'm like, that's a dope car. Yeah. I don't think to myself, oh, I wish I had that car. Neal sucks. No, it's like, damn, I can't.
Oh no, I do. I'm like, I want the boat. I want the boat so bad. I want the boat. I thought it was the wake, but that was for sale, and I was like, I gotta know. It's like I gotta know how much.
No.
But you're motivated, right? I get motivated when I see people succeeding, and I want to be like them or like even better, you know. But people aren't like us, though. That's pretty clear.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think that's like a general societal thing where you have like half the population likes people that like stuff. That's also one thing I think I struggle with a bit with the Canadian culture is that there is a bit of a hatred towards nice things,
100%.
Whereas I find the American culture is a little more pro.
It's different. I worked in the States, and the atmosphere is different. If you're a business owner, if you're doing well, everyone's like, yeah, it's awesome. In Canada, like, you got to keep that quiet.
Yeah, which I get to an extent.
It's weird.
I guess it's like...
But
I don't. What? I don't get it at all. It's jealousy, no, to the core.
Yeah, it is. I guess I get the idea of like not making people feel bad. I guess like I understand like it does. I'm with you. Like when I went down the street and I saw someone pull into a fancy restaurant downtown Halifax in their Bentley or whatever it was, I was envious. I was like, that's crazy. Like I want that, or at least want to experience that. But I do, I guess, respect that for some people it makes them feel worse about their life. But it's weird then. It's like then no one can do anything good because then someone else is not going to feel adequate, right? So it's like
that's a them problem, man. That's what that is.
Yeah.
That's an internal, you're not happy with your life, so you're going to project that on others. That's like an internal issue, and that's something that should be fixed. I don't want to commend that.
I know, and I feel like we do kind of commend that with the way that our culture is here, which is tough. But yeah, so I don't know. We have a funny culture in the way that we live in Halifax. But I know it's funny. Everyone here, there's lots of very very well-to-do people, and I feel like just until the last 2 years, they've all like hit it with as much as they possibly could. But I think that does go everywhere in this world because I think that culture exists wherever you go.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, That's true. But it is what it is.
Well, Neal, again, we want to thank you for being on our show. This has been a fun conversation. We could honestly keep on going for another hour, but we might have to do a part 2 sometime down the road
Yeah,
once you finally buy some stuff in the States.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna have a freaking afro at the front. It's gonna look sick.
Yes, me too. Like, wait, this is gonna be nice. I'm gonna bring it right down to like here.
Part 2 we'll come on with headbands on. Right, coming back from Turkey. That's what we'll log on.
Oh man, I'm gonna look ridiculous. I've had a bad hairline since I was 18. So this
Damn.
No.
No, I swear to God.
Injustice.
Honestly,
injustice. Genetic injustice.
Since I was born, I think I have had a receding hairline.
The world did
and
you
it just
dirty.
got like dirty. I accepted that I was gonna go bald at 30, and I'm already 30, and I was just delaying it. But now you just put this vision of a fresh hairline in my mind. So if money can't buy you happiness, this is like it can. It can buy you a new hairline.
It can buy you your hair back. There are some things that are I'm gonna be pretty happy, I think. But anyways, yeah, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. Like I said, we should link up again definitely soon and chat outside of here. And yeah, if anyone listening wants to know any more about Keystone or any of the other stuff that I offer, like I said, they'll have my contacts, but you guys can give me a shout. Anyone who calls me, don't be offended if I don't pick up the phone because it rings a lot. Probably have 30 missed ones here right now. So shoot me an email or a text is probably the best way to get in touch.
Awesome.
No, that's awesome. It was really great to hear your story too.
Of course.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Refined Real Estate Podcast. That was a very fun episode with Neal. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We dived into a lot of things. We talked about his growth in the real estate world and what he's up to now. He's also given some great tips on what you should do as a new investor jumping into this world in 2023 with the current market and the current rates. So once again, thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, all that stuff. And we'll see you guys next week.